Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for September 16th, 2019. This week, let's begin with selective memory, because this is the hallmark of hypocrites. They only remember bad things when they can blame the people they don't like anyway. USC professor: I don't see the Second Amendment as absolute, just like I don't see the First Amendment as absolute. Unfortunately, he's correct here. Neither are absolute. They both come with some restrictions. Libel, slander, incitement to violence, for example, do not fall under the purview of free speech. And though it's never actually been argued before the Supreme Court that I'm aware of, I'm fairly certain even a conservative court wouldn't consider the private ownership of nuclear missiles covered under our right to bear arms. So, yeah, these rights are not absolute. There are limits. I say unfortunately because now we're all left with the undecided, vague, and frequently changing idea of how to adequately define those limits so the rules are clear and precise. Something, so far, no one has actually managed to do. It's all a little fuzzy. I don't like fuzzy rules. A University of California, Los Angeles professor is calling not only for gun control, but also qualifications to freedom of speech in order to combat mass shootings fueled by racism, a phenomenon, he says, has only come to light since President Donald Trump election. Well, I guess there was never a mass shooting while Obama was president or anything, like Sandy Hook, San Bernardino, the Chattanooga Recruitment Center, Fort Hood, the Dallas police shooting, the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut this list off somewhere. We have to get back to the article before Friday. UCLA professor Douglas Kellner states that until 2 years ago, all of the previous shootings were rather divorced from socio-political factors, claiming that while mass shootings occurred in the past, they were the results of individual crisis of young men, having to do with things such as family life or school trouble in an interview published by the university. Nope. No socio-political factors there, like, at all. Kellner asserts that the phenomenon of mass shootings motivated by racist ideas is largely isolated to instances occurring since Trump's election. So, this one wasn't motivated by racism then. The toxicity of gun culture has created a new factor that we have never seen before. That was a major factor in the last few shootings, and that was the election of Donald Trump, and in particular, Trump's rhetoric on immigrants, Kellner said, adding there haven't been particular racist school shootings before or acts of domestic terrorism. Look, I've already demonstrated you're just flat out wrong and talking shit. I'm not going to keep doing so every time you make the same bullshit assertion. The professor goes on to state matter-of-factly that the El Paso shooting was completely different from any of the other acts of domestic terrorism or school shootings because it was targeting Latinos and immigrants. So, Latinos and immigrants have never ever been targeted before. That's a totally new thing, is it? Care to explain that whole historical oppression thing to me again, then? When asked how an incident like the El Paso shooting was possible in Texas, given that the state has a long history of Latino and Mexican culture, Kellner replied, again, I think it's Trump. Recalling time he spent teaching in Texas between 73 and the mid-90s, and noting that he didn't remember any anti-Latino murders by some racist shooter during that period. Okay, look. I seriously can't be bothered with this shit anymore. It's rather time-consuming to dig up one case after another, every time you make a claim that's obviously bullshit. I'm sure there were racists somewhere in Texas between 73 and 95. And I'm equally sure, at the very least, one of them shot someone somewhere because they were the wrong skin color or nationality. The 70s weren't exactly known as the age of tolerance or anything. But I'm not going to waste all my time looking up example after example after example to prove you wrong every time you say something stupid. It's becoming exhausting. You've wasted any and all credibility at this point talking complete bullshit. So I can't imagine why anyone would believe the next thing that comes out of your mouth either. I certainly wouldn't. You're full of shit, Professor, and you're spinning fiction to support a narrative. At this point, Nothing you've said is actually true, so I don't give a fuck what your recommendations may or may not be. You're clearly not dealing with reality, so I can safely assume your recommendations are just as full of shit as you are. Moving along, Bob. Professor, I am blinded by my whiteness. Don't know all of what it means to be white or male or a U.S. citizen. From a professor who can't tell the truth to one that hates himself and needs to tell everyone so they can congratulate him for being a dumbass. You're trying to give me an aneurysm this week, aren't you, Bob? The head of Western Connecticut State University's psychology department shared his own qualms about being white on Tuesday, claiming that whiteness needs to go away. Daniel Barrett, a professor and chair of the school's psychology department, made this claim and others in an op-ed penned for the Good Men Project. In the piece titled Race Traitor, the professor states that whiteness needs to go away, claiming that if whiteness is based on the increasing destruction of the environment and the total demolition of value, specifically truth, integrity, honesty, defense of the common good, common sense, love broadly construed, recognition of the inherent humanity of others, and so on, then the concept should be allowed to dissolve into oblivion, erode into nothingness. And if that's what whiteness actually was, then I would agree with you. But it isn't. You haven't defined a skin color at all. You've defined a series of actions, choices, and attitudes, none of which are exclusive to a single skin color. You can't just describe everything that you don't like, then pretend it's unique to a certain race. That's called racism, Professor. And racism is bad, remember? Barrett goes on to muse about his personal tumultuous relationship with his identity. I don't know all of what it means to be white or male or a U.S. citizen, he writes. I need others to tell me. Introspection is self-limiting. If you're depending on others to tell you who or what you are, then you're an idiot. The professor proclaims that he is blinded by his own whiteness. I do not know the extent to which I have been advantaged, but it is clear that I have. This extentness cannot be unpacked because there is no separating what I have earned from what I have been given, Barrett asserts. Privilege is yet another question which must remain unanswered, yet not unacknowledged. So, I don't know any way in which I've been privileged, but I know I have because reasons. That's all you said. That's called brainwashing, Professor. The professor purports that although white has no intrinsic meaning, no import, no value, and that whiteness has no nation, no culture, no essence, his white identity reverberates through the fabric of his being and his consciousness seemingly without limit. Christ. So let me recap real quick. You don't know what whiteness is, but it's bad. You don't know who or what you are, but it must be bad because of the bad thing you don't know, and though you can't define or describe it in any tangible way, you're positive it's everywhere in everything and it's bad. Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. I mean, there's really nothing else to say here. You're an empty-headed moron of the highest order. You have nothing but blind faith in pure bullshit that you don't know, don't understand, and can't articulate in any concrete or meaningful way. But you're sure it's bad. You don't even know why it's bad, but by the gods, you're sure that it is. Let's just say you could be the poster child for everything that's broken in education these days. What's next, Bob? I can't take any more of this bobblehead. Video. Students support canceling college loan debt, but not credit card debt. Naturally, because the college loan debt is theirs, the credit card debt is their parents'. As student loan debt in America inches toward $2 trillion, Democrat presidential candidates like Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have proposed plans that would forgive student loan debt for millions of Americans. Supporters of these proposals say they would offer young Americans the financial freedom they need to contribute to the economy, while detractors point out the hefty price tag and potential danger in the message it sends to the next generation. This week, Sanders was asked whether he'd forgive credit card debt as president, as that, too, can be a drag on the economy. But Sanders' response to credit card debt was much different from his approach to student loan debt. You want to buy something? You pay for it, he said. Except college, healthcare, retirement, housing, food, all the shit that would be free, right, Bernie? Wanting to know what college students who support student loan debt forgiveness thought of the idea, Campus Reform's Cabot Phillips headed to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. No, because I think that's something that people do to themselves when you buy things even if you know you don't have enough money, one student told Campus Reform when asked whether the U.S. should cancel Americans' credit card debt. When Campus Reform followed up by asking the student how that was different from taking out a student loan, she responded, "Yeah, that's true, but one, helps your future." Ever heard of a home loan? Car loan? Do these things not help your future? Ever heard of unexpected expenses like a furnace craps out or your water heater stops working all of a sudden? Debt isn't racked up just by buying cell phones and video games, hun. One student opposed the idea of paying off credit card debt, but defended student loan forgiveness because that's part of the social contract, and you should be okay with your taxes going to that. Thing is, no, it's not. You don't get to just add shit onto this so-called social contract whenever you feel like it. I mean, shit, I'd like a pilot's license. It's not your responsibility to pay for that, is it? Similarly, your degree in underwater flower arrangement or wherever the fuck you're studying isn't mine. Many students said the reason credit card debt shouldn't be forgiven is that it's voluntary, while they feel student loan debt is not. Yeah. Except that it is. You don't have to have a credit card. It's not essential in the same way that a 4-year college education has become, one said, while another added, you don't have to own a credit card. But in order to achieve the American dream, you kind of have to go to university. No, you don't. And you certainly don't have to take out loans to pay for it either. You could get a fucking job and go to school part-time so you don't have to borrow so much money you can't pay back. You could serve your country before serving yourself and earn money for college. There are all sorts of options available to you beyond borrow money and beg everyone else to pay it back. Toxic time, Bob. I'm through listening to the selfish, entitled shitbags who think the world owes them something. A Florida teen accused of trying to have her parents killed in murder-for-hire plot is ordered to remain in detention. A Florida teenager arrested this week on charges of attempting to have her parents killed was ordered Wednesday to remain in custody. Alyssa Michelle Hatcher is accused of stealing nearly $1,500 from her parents' bank account while trying to carry out her murder-for-hire plot, a police affidavit says. She used $400 to pay a friend to have her parents killed, the affidavit says, and when the act was not carried out, the 17-year-old paid another person $900 to do it. A Lake County judge ordered Hatcher to remain in custody during a detention hearing. The judge also appointed Hatcher a public defender. It was not immediately known who Hatcher's public defender would be. The girl's boyfriend told investigators he had seen her at a known drug house where she told him she wanted to kill her parents, according to the affidavit. When she was interviewed by an investigator at her home, Hatcher said that in addition to paying 2 people to kill her parents, she also used money she had stolen from her parents to buy cocaine. Hatcher's parents were not injured and told investigators they wanted to press charges against their daughter. She has been charged as a juvenile with 2 counts of criminal solicitation for murder. Hatcher is scheduled to appear in Lake County courtroom on October 3rd. Well, this one's easy. It's all the boyfriend's fault. You don't see it, Bob? The boyfriend ratted her out to the patriarchy, and sure enough, they arrested her and threw her in jail just to oppress the poor helpless women who didn't do nothing. Oh, I know, but I'm sure she only tried to kill her parents to gain freedom from their oppression. Let's wrap it up. Nothing? Well, if you couldn't find anything funny, I guess we'll just do a bonus toxic masculinity. So what else have you got? New Jersey woman, 23, allegedly stabbed mom to death in apartment, fled to hotel authorities. A 23-year-old New Jersey woman was arrested Friday at a hotel after allegedly stabbing her mom to death inside their apartment earlier that morning, authorities said. Marissa Rivera is accused of killing her 56-year-old mother, Denise whatever, around 3:30 a.m. at the Mount Laurel apartment where both lived, the Burlington County Prosecutor's Office said in a statement. When failed to show up for work, police were called to conduct a welfare check and discovered her body at the Ramblewood Village Apartments, officials said. Police later found Rivera at a Route 73 hotel where she surrendered without incident, the statement said. Investigators were still examining any possible motive in the murder. Rivera was charged with first-degree murder, third-degree possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, and fourth-degree unlawful possession of a weapon, officials said. Well, going to be a bit tough to place the appropriate blame on a man in this one, but only because they don't know the motive yet. I mean, we all know the invisible hand of the almighty patriarchy is behind this somehow, because this couldn't possibly be any sort of example of femininity. But without the details, I can only guess why it's men's fault. That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.